just started.
I guess not.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's a joint meeting between the Opioid Abatement Committee and General Operations. Today is March 13th. It's 5 o'clock and we're in conference room 1112 at the County Administration Building. I'd like to request an invocation at this time. David?
Sure. Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to do the work of the people, and that we are having this joint session with Opioid Abatement and General Operations. We ask that you help us be productive, guide our tongues, guide our minds, and allow us to come up with the best results regardless of what we discuss. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I'll ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless you. Before we approve the agenda, we have there's a request to switch under new business B to A and A to B, and we're going to change. We're just flipping it around a bit. Anybody?
I'll motion to switch them.
Is that a without objection thing or a vote?
Yeah, we can vote for that.
A second.
You're all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, I'd like to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We're going to recognize the public. We have no one, all invisible, so we'll move on. We're going to start out with the report of the Opioid Abatement Committee Chairman. I have no real, other than financial reporting and what we've been doing with the Opioid Abatement Committee. We've added 2 new members, Commissioner Bergdorf and Matt, what's your last name? Campbell, I'm sorry, I always mess that up. And we have done a lot of work with the organizations to try to disperse the medicine. I'm sorry, I've been working. Disperse the funding per state law and what we're allowed to do. And we've done some really, over the last year or so, we have done a lot of work and have been successful in a lot of it. And I'm very proud of our committee. So, do you have anything to add?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Our next report is of the General Operations Chairman.
No report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to under new business, Part B, which will be the discussion of the potential underline sale of 139 East Winchester Street in Gallatin, Tennessee, which is AKA Children Are People building. So we will start with a discussion on that and funding sources.
So regarding the funding sources, in front of you is the budgets that we have. The funding source for a potential match would come from round 3. The state has offered us, and we have agreed to a memo of agreement stating that we will receive $709,633.29. Right now, on the behind the scenes, so that everybody is aware, $100,000 would be withheld for Sumner County Prevention Coalition, and then an additional $150,000 is for a county department's official request. That is right now being worked out and will be presented to the Opioid Abatement Committee hopefully in April. And as always, if that request is not accepted, then it would be offered to the general public in a regular round of funding. So looking at the 117, 133, and 139 Winchester building, I'm passing out the financial notes. Just so you all are aware about the property was sold to Sumner County for $10 back in 1988. The comptroller for the treasury has the property valued at $60,000 and the improvement value as $126 for a total market appraisal of $186,800.
I'm sorry,
Now,
can you hold that just a second?
Yeah.
Was that one sheet or two?
just one sheet.
Okay. It came in 3 sections.
Is that just one page? Yeah, just
Okay.
one page.
I'm sorry.
Everybody good?
Good.
Okay, so for the 186,800, I want to offer a caveat on that piece. That came from December of last year. As of today, legal has reached out with their documentation, and apparently the comptroller has updated their website to where the total market appraisal value is at $500,000. We're not for sure why there is a discrepancy over those months. We have not had the opportunity to look into it at this time.
I have an
I
answer.
can answer that
Okay.
question.
The mayor would be better.
Yeah, they went out, this was not an accurate appraisal, they went out and updated the cost models on that property.
Okay.
Yeah, and I still feel that this value is low as well.
You
Okay.
feel what?
This value is gonna be low.
Okay.
The building is 7,395 square feet, as noted in the ADA transition guide for Sumner County. About Prevention Coalition, the coalition is the primary organization that impacts our youth. They directly impact all of Sumner County. The organization spends $18,909 in rents on a month-to-month lease. This does not include any storage units that they maintain that contains the trailers and other information that is handed out at the schools. The Prevention Coalition has said they would divide the land to sell a portion of it to Recovery Courts, Inc., that's the not-for-profit arm of Recovery Court, so that the second structure would be torn down and a new one would be built for women with children that are impacted by opioids. About the sale of the property, Sumner County Opioid Abatement Committee has indicated they will entertain providing $100,000 from opioid funds as a match for the property. If the property is sold for $200,000, the county will have netted $199,900. Opioid abatement contracts have a pro rata plan for the next 20 years. Should Sumner Prevention Coalition attempt to sell the property or structure and land, they will have to reimburse the direct appropriation of the restricted opioid funds to Sumner County. That could be minus the land that would be sold to the Recovery Court, Inc., if the body agreed to it. Alternatives to the sale of the property: auction the property. However, there is no guarantee that Sumner County would receive at least $200,000. We could ask for a minimum bid of $500,000, but there is no guarantee that somebody would entertain that bid. We could potentially lease the property. If Sumner County retains the property to lease, the government would have to bring the structure into compliance with the American Disabilities Act. The estimated 2025 cost to upgrade is $325,717.62. The county would still need to demolish the adjacent structure, and the county would need to retain the insurance on the property. We could relocate maintenance department to the Children or People building. We would still need to upgrade the facility for ADA compliance. The county would need to demolish the adjacent structure. The county would retain insurance on the structure. Or we could demolish both structures and sell the land. Additional notes: while the building is vacant, the county is still paying insurance. Also, some of the windows will need to be repaired due to recent damage.
Can I throw something in there? The other option would be to sell the land and do nothing. Whoever buys it does whatever they want with the improvements on the property. Because that could be done without an extra cost, just FYI.
So you're just saying the fourth option, less demo, just sell?
Just sell, yes. And it becomes the buyer's problem /
So that was being passed out now is the information that was reviewed back in December to compare with what the new dollar amount is. Also being passed out are the letters of support from various community organizations supporting Sumner Prevention Coalition in this endeavor.
I think that is the orange.
And finally, You have a letter that is being passed out regarding an request to sell the property to the Prevention Coalition, as well as the highlights that the Sumner Prevention Coalition has. As noted, this is only for informational purposes. No action is being taken today.
No. Okay. Oh,
Restate that, please.
As noted, no action to sell the property is being asked for today. This is only for informational purposes. The last piece of advisement from the Department of Finance is the request to sell the property and potentially give $100,000 of opioid abatement funds to the Prevention Coalition does meet the state requirements under the opioid abatement funds. So it is an allowable expense.
I do have a question on the appraisal. On the appraisal, it has updated on 3/11/25, and the last appraisal, the last noted amount was in December of 2024. And I am curious as to why the comptroller felt it necessary to re-up the amount. Was it because there was someone interested in buying it, or was it there was curiosity over it?
Sure,
I'm
with
just
a
asking.
request on that.
So somebody requested this?
I do.
Do we know? Sorry?
If I may, the 2024 you see, I think, is a result of last information they received, and the mayor may be able to speak to this. I do not think an appraisal's been done in quite some time on that piece of property, and because I've been inquiring on the property and doing a site visit out there just to understand it, it has come to their attention, and they did actually go out this week and do a proper tax assessment on the property.
So we don't know when the last, I mean, that's weird to me, because my home is always assessed.
Well, it's not, for the county, it wouldn't be an impact because there'd be no taxes paid anyway.
Okay.
So that's probably why I wouldn't have just jumped anybody's radar.
This is good, thank you.
So along with that, I'm curious as to, I know in Gen Ops, y'all discussed it, if we're gonna get appraisal, an actual appraisal on the property.
So from the finance standpoint, when GenOps meets in April, upon conversations with Director Line, GenOps could request an appraisal, and then it would go in front of budgets to have the money appropriated for appraisal to be done. You could request him to potentially look for an auctioneer, and then we could do an auctioneer with a minimum bid of $500,000. We could try to keep the property for maintenance department to be relocated in, but the last option would require additional funds to be set aside to get it into ADA compliance.
See, here's,
No, I was
Good.
gonna ask a different question.
Okay,
So you
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh. How are we gonna handle the volunteer fire department?
So in the packet that you have in front of you with the letters, there are letters both from the City of Gallatin and the Volunteer Fire Department stating that they are willing to work with Sumner Prevention Coalition, and in return, Sumner Prevention Coalition has said they would be willing to work with them to stay there.
Page
I
Brown's letter.
think, and the mayor might address this, one of the things that the staff here don't like me talking about is the electricity and stuff. I think right now the county's paying for the electricity, and I don't know what the water bill is and the electric bill, but what are we gonna do about that? I mean, at the time that I looked at it, the electricity bill was high, and I couldn't figure it out because the building was empty.
If the property is sold, that is between Sumner Prevention Coalition and those entities. If we remain and keep the property, then we would have to start looking into how it is being used along with the insurance.
I would think that if we're going to gift the property from the county or lease the property for X number of dollars, I think we're jumping the gun by trying to get an appraisal done because we won't need it, and that can be quite expensive as a government entity.
I said the
So,
same thing.
and then I think we need to decide if we're gonna go down this path, what that looks like as far as utilities with, you know, with the coalition, the covered court, and volunteer fire department, whoever's out there, and have a plan for them to divide those utilities before we try to spend any kind of an appraisal. Because I was thinking about this last night. If these organizations are saving, and I'm never for giving county property away, but with a non-for-profit, if they're saving us thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars probably over the years, not housing inmates and getting them treatment and help outside of jail, then to me, it's, even if the property appraises for $800,000, I think it's a good investment for Sumner County. That's just me. And working with them, because they're gonna save us a lot of money over the next decade, keeping these people out of jail and out of the, you know, the jail system.
I agree with Danny. When you look at the amount of overdoses that are happening and the need of the community and the county, giving this opportunity to a group of entities that work in this field all the time, are experts in the field, have the ability to help multiple groups in that area at one time. They're not having to go on this building and that. And when you think about, if I'm an addict and I have to go to this building over here, but then I may have to go over here, I may drop off and not have that continuation of care or that opportunity. So you are absolutely right. I've heard it from Recovery Court, from Judge Blanton, the amount of money over the years that we can save with, like you said, with inmate, because it's expensive to put someone into jail and then process them legally through the system. I think you're right. I know it's $500,000 and people are licking their chops and the carrot's out there, but you got to think about what we're dealing with in our county emotionally, mentally, even with children. And I will say this, kids today are in a bad place, a lot of them, because they're home. Some of them are homeless, their parents are on drugs, they're trying to live a life, a normal life, and these people are the ones that are working with these families to get them into a normalcy and have the ability to live a life and not let them fall into the drugs and alcohol and all that kind of stuff. So I think them making an offer, I say they make an offer, and if it's reasonable and we agree, I think that's a great idea. Because I think when we start looking at money and that drives that cost, that little dollar amount, we become the greedy cat, you know, and I'm like you, Danny, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep, Madam Chairman, I think that was very well spoken.
Thank you, sir.
And I would like to advocate that either we lease it to them for long term, at $1 a year, and let them put all those resources into our citizens, or gift them the property, and let them make the investment that they need to make into bringing that building up to standards. But let's give them the resources they need to help our citizens.
And I agree with you, and I thank you for that comment, because if the problem with renting it is the grant they may be able to get.
Okay.
That will really reduce the ability for that, because when you have real investment, you get better grants. So I think gifting it is a wonderful idea. And they could use that money that they're getting from opioid to fix the building and bring it.
I think, and I've thought about this the last couple of days, I really think, a long term, maybe not this next 2 years, but I think long term, if we do that, I think we're gonna reap 10, 20-fold.
Well, we are already,
Or more.
our opioid program, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, our opioid program is being recognized as getting to be one of the best by a way we are coordinating with the hospital and different entities. We are getting to be #1 in Tennessee, I think, and I'll work for that. But I think by doing what we're doing, we're showing that we have an interest in our community, not only in that, but also in forward thinking about what our kids are going to be coming through. So it's a win-win for years. 18 years, you know, apparently the money is supposed to come forward. I will be probably in a nursing home at this point, but I'm getting there. But I think for my grandchildren, and I know all of you care about your kids and your grandkids, anything we can do to prevent kids from getting in a situation.
Is it a fact that the quality of grants that they can achieve is much better when they own the property than
So in discussions with both Judge Blanton and Judge Hunter, when we discussed Sumner Prevention Coalition and them willing to split or divide the property so that way Recovery Court could demolish the house and potentially get a grant to do it. Recovery Court, not-for-profit, did state that it was hard to get grants for the houses because they did not own the property. And so the intent was for the side house to become a place for women with children to reside while they're seeking assistance. In the last conversation I had with them, currently we have 2 members of Sumner County, or 2 Sumner County residents that have children. They are not in Sumner County right now because they do not have a facility to use. So they are actually in Davidson. And so we would like to try to keep those families together.
What about the coalition's ability to get grants? Is there a difference because they would own the Children of People building? Is there a difference whether they rent it or own it?
Yes, there is a difference. So it's sort of like us looking at a sort of property or any property and we're requesting grant funds to make repairs to it. It would follow the same. Do you own the property? Who owns it? And then you have to go through additional hoops if you do not own it.
Okay, well, that's huge.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have 2 questions. So we have the parcel. We're looking at the children building going to the coalition, and then Recovery Court using the other 2 parcels? Or, well, it's 1 parcel, but you know what, if you know, you know.
The Sumner Prevention Coalition has indicated, and they will probably talk about it during their presentation coming up, that they are willing to subdivide the property so that way they would keep the primary structure being the one on the right, where the housing structure would be demolished, and then they would work with
So, could we not go ahead and give the 2 pieces to the 2 parties?
I want to be clear here. We're talking about them partitioning after they get the property, correct?
That is correct, sir.
So if that's the case, you want them to come to an agreement. We don't need to be dictating a partition here.
Right.
We need to give them the whole plat, and they can work out their agreement, and then it's their deal, not ours.
I understand that, but since it was at the table, it seemed like it was part of the discussion.
Yeah, no, I agree with it.
That's why I
I
wanted
would
to clear-
not
I wanted
touch
to
it,
clean
yeah.
up.
But no, there has been discussion when Sumner County, when Sumner Prevention Coalition obtains the property, should they be able to obtain it, they want to subdivide the property. That way the housing side would be with Recovery Court, not for profit.
Okay, so we'll just let them deal with that, not
Yes.
split it on our end.
And what about the volunteer fire department?
Yeah,
Volunteer Fire Department, there's a letter in your packet stating that they would work with the Prevention Coalition and the Prevention Coalition would be working with them.
Okay.
So the same would apply, that would be, once the Prevention Coalition, should they obtain the property, that is between them. Just like the Police Department for Gallatin, there is a letter in there from Mayor Brown, that says that they would be willing to work with them as long as Sumner Prevention is willing to work with them as well. So they would obtain the property, that is between Sumner Prevention Coalition and each one of those entities.
When we had our general operations meeting last week, I know it's been a long week, it's been pretty outside. But they did say, I know they're here, but they did say that they have already been in talks with the volunteer fire departments as well as with every court. Everybody's has talked and they are 100% willing to work with everybody that's come to the table. So.
yes, ma'am. So I have another item that I want to ask. When we were going through our opiate packet in the last round, we saw that the Salva's house had been, that non-for-profit had been taken over by a larger one. So I have that concern in mind. And I'd like to discuss the potential of adding a reverter clause
That's possible.
to this.
Well, if
And that would only go into effect if the coalition or either piece of the property are no longer under this purpose or they're sold to an outside
Well,
source.
they have to, if they sell it, say they skid it and they sell it, they have to give the opioid abatement committee the money back that was given to them.
I would rather entertain the idea of getting the property back and the money.
I don't know if I'd do that, if I was doing that. I would give you your money back, your $200,000,
But if we're looking at, we don't know what it's worth, I'm just saying, I'm just opening it up for conversation. I know we've dealt with the reverter clause on the Hendersonville Library. We've all went through that back and forth before, and we know how that's ended up.
Mr. Jones?
The trickiness with that is gonna be, it's always gonna increase in value, and so,
Yes, that's the point, yeah.
but at a certain point, they may have vested interest if they
We wanna-
purchase it versus being gifted. Where's that line
That would be to you, I guess. He's asking you contractually how the,
I can add a reverter if the parties agree to the reverter. That's not a problem, but that's not something we can vote on today. That would have to go through Gen Ops legislative.
I think you could even, couldn't you put a reverter clause in there that, it would be based on a $500,000 appraisal in 2025, or whatever, however you wanted to word that.
Usually you see reverters, churches are classic
Yeah.
for this, where if you use it and alcohol is served on the premises and then it reverts back to the church. You could do something here where if it ceases to be used as a rehab facility or whatever you want to call the entity in its entirety, if it ceases to be used as that the property can revert back to the county. That's how you classically see them.
Yeah.
You don't see them whittled down to fine
Dollar
points
amount,
and things like
but
that.
that's exactly what I
Is
was
that
thinking.
only, is that if it's gifted to them, or even if they
A
pay
deed's
for
a
it?
deed, however it gets to them, you can add a
If it's
reverter
sold.
clause.
at? That's why I was asking.
Well,
If
because
it's
if
sold,
you,
then you're,
if you sell it, like, sell it.
There's gonna be consideration. Now, what do you wanna call that consideration? Usually, that's why you always see that for $10 cash in hand. If you look at your deed, I guarantee you probably says that. That's the consideration to make that a bona fide transaction.
And if I may, for the Gen Ops folks, we went over this in our opiate package, and the Salva Center is now a national nonprofit.
The what center?
The Salva Center.
It's in Gallatin over by.
It's a free clinic, and it used to be a local, but it kind of just got warped. Now it's a national, and they can do whatever they want with it. So I'm just looking at the county asset, if at some time something was to come over, a bigger entity, it would revert back to the county.
Well,
Well, now that I'm sorry, I didn't.
no, go ahead.
Now that I think about the reverter, here's where we're gonna run into a problem, is if we do a reverter and we know they're gonna partition it, then it becomes two separate pieces of land. So the
what I was
reverter,
kinda
the
I was
reverter
gonna
won't
ask the
carry
same
over.
question.
Unless
Unless
we
we
get
split
them
it
to,
first.
unless we get them to agree to the reverter or split it, partition it
Split it
beforehand.
first.
But that's gonna be an expense. You'll have to have surveying done and quite a bit.
And I've thought about this a lot too, but I think if we go that route, we're gonna really muddy the water. I think, to me, it comes down again to the question of what the property is worth and how much this organization can save us over the next 10 years.
I agree with
I
that.
think it's gonna far be above what that piece of property is worth now. So to me, I would leave it alone, but I've thought about the same thing.
Yeah, and I want them to have it.
Yeah.
I just want,
Yeah.
I mean, the Salvas thing kind of shook me up when I thought about it.
Yeah.
That somebody else could.
Do that.
Yeah, I'm in same thinking as Commissioner Boyd. If our intent is to give it for a purpose, and the purpose is for the betterment of the community, and say we sell it as a single plat, and then they subdivide, and the house that gets torn down, they build a 10-unit apartment complex for these unwed mothers, and then they decide after 2 years it's not working, they turn around and sell it for $3 million.
Yep.
Then we didn't accomplish what we were accomplishing,
Right.
and somebody made a lot of money off of our good nature.
Yeah.
Mr. Jones?
they're a 501c3, right? What can they do with it? Can they profit off of that?
Depends on how they use the money that they get. It's nonprofits a category, but I've seen profits that have people running the place that make $500,000 a year. So that's cost of doing business. The money can be used in many different ways and not be considered a profit.
And the Salva
Is that a-
Center is a
is-
nonprofit, it's not a corporation.
Is there some-
It's a
Right.
501c.
Is there something we can do there with the contingency for
I
how
think-
they would sell it, or?
Personally, I agree with Commissioner here that I think you just need to look at this as an all or nothing
That's right.
Yeah.
thing, because you start getting into the weeds on this, you're gonna paint yourself in a corner is what's gonna
All the
happen.
what ifs can
Yeah.
so overwhelming, it stops you from doing anything.
I think anything can happen, but they're doing so much good.
Yeah.
But we could, I'm sorry,
So,
but we can still have them have it and still have this insurance policy of Roberta.
That is a possibility, yes.
Because I can totally get behind that.
You know, we've been talking about this for a long, and I'll be the devil's advocate here, okay? We've been talking about this for a long time, about what this group can do and Recovery Court, because they need space, way, big time. And when we brought nothing against what people are saying, but when we brought the idea to use the children are peoples, I bet everybody in here didn't even know what that was. You know, that building, you know, where is it, what is it, what about it? So, and me included, because I knew it was there, and I knew that it existed, but I didn't realize that it was owned by the county, and until I became a commissioner, and then I knew I'd been over there snooping around. So, I think, I agree with Danny, that once you start sticking all these little restrictions, what if you do this, or what if you do that? That really, I don't know if that'll, and that may even limit some of the grant, if they see in a deed, like, if I say, hey, I'm the so-and-so, and I'd like to get a grant for $500,000, and they say, well, okay, you own the building, but there's a clause in here that says there may be a problem with getting that grant. And that's another maybe. So my opinion is you gift it, you give it to God, as I always say, and move on, and let them do that. God's work is what they do. And I understand the money people over here going, I don't know, I'd like to have that money back. Well, who's to say that the building won't look like a rat shack in 5 years? Or, you know, it's a concrete building, it's got issues. It's got a good roof on it, I like that roof on there, but it has issues. And if they're gonna do the repairs after they buy it, and they do all the ownership of it, and it kinda reminds me of the Comer situation, the tourism, you know, that whole situation over there. So, I think it needs to be clean, just let it go. Let them do their magic. I don't think they're going anywhere.
Well, they're not in the real estate business. I mean,
No.
they're not trying to get this property to sell it, make money. They need a place. They're doing a lot of work. I think they should have it.
It's like Recovery Court, they're not going anywhere. They're gonna do their thing over at the courthouse. They've been doing it for a while, way before I ever knew about it. But I think it's a good cause. Salva Center is a 501c. I know all about all that. They do a lot of good work over there, but that's a different type of group of, what they do over there is actually different than what we're looking
Yeah, it's two totally different
at. Totally
things.
different things. Tim? I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones, I didn't mean to.
You're okay, you're right. I appreciate where Commissioner Boyd's going. I want to try to help her get there, because I understand when you're looking at the money part of it, you know, and putting protections in there for the taxpayers, and, you know, so that they know you did your job. But the one thing that in thinking about this, that I see is this entity is different than somebody that's gonna do things to improve the building and then possibly sell it in the future, because what they do, I think they're always gonna do. Somebody's always gonna do this job, and the judges are right there looking over it also, and it's on the same piece of property. They're probably always gonna be in this business of trying to help people with the same issues. So whether they do it there, whether they do it somewhere else, I think it's something worth the risk just to let them do their thing. And if they have to move to another building later, then, you know, worst case, they can use the proceeds off that building and move to a better building, a bigger building later. We don't know the future of this county, but we know there's probably always going to be
There's always gonna be
drugs
that
and
need.
alcohol and, you know, recovery court needed and, you know, prevention for teenagers is always going to be there. So
There is a lot of addictions, a lot of them, not just drugs, not alcohol, there is a ton of them.
So, I mean, I'm okay with letting it be clean and just not put contingencies.
From a financial standpoint, if you all do go down this route, I would ask you to look at the dollar amount. I know that you all have talked about gifting the property. However, from a financial standpoint, we do have some other vacant properties. So if you give it to one, you may have other not-for-profits come knocking on your door. So therefore, you may want to entertain or look at dollar amounts. So that way it protects us. We do get some of the funds back that we have invested in on this property, whether it's maintenance and repair work that's already been done. However, just be advised, you know, we do have that.
Is there a amount, is there a threshold or anything that it has to be, or?
I think what was originally presented is a very clean way to do this, because it shows some gain. That use of the property is the 100 matching 100.
It's $100,000.
So, no, it's 200, but I think opioid has a matching
Yeah.
factor to this. And also keep in mind, they're willing to entertain continued use by city, by the municipality for whatever they're using it for, and the volunteer fire department, and they're taking that on themselves.
Right, so they're also.
So there's a
gonna work with the county
benefit
and
for
see.
both the city and the county. And the fact that just ADA compliance alone, there's $400,000 that's not being spent. And then you get down to the demolition of at least that one building. What are we looking at, another 50 grand on that? Because somebody's gonna have to do that, and it might as well be the purchaser.
But we can't really talk about the ADA cost, because the county ADA cost is over $1 billion. We've seen that report.
I don't
And we're not
disagree.
doing it.
I don't disagree, but the problem is we're now aware of a building that is being used by city workers, volunteer fire department, and there's
So they
no
have to be brought
ADA
up to
compliance
ADA.
in that building.
Well, we're aware, I'm sorry, we should,
So what I see two options, gift and allow a $200,000 offer with the $100,000 with a match. Those are two options that we're looking at? Or,
Commissioner Sullivan's idea of just not taking their money and putting that back in the community was a really good idea, I thought.
well, I mean.
I'm okay either way.
Yeah, but like he said,
If you gift it,
if
you have others.
You have others.
Open it
if
up.
you
You can
start doing
open up a can.
His checks more boxes, I think, is the
Yeah, the
cleanest way
money
to say
will give
that.
more skin in the game for the whole situation. Mr. Jones?
Could I ask Dustin,
Sure.
what the, how far off are we from the 200,000 to fair market value? I know the mayor was saying that there possibly is a discrepancy in the value.
So looking at it without an appraisal, I cannot tell you. I will tell you, we were looking at the December, which is 186, and then today, legal was with us and it was over 500. Is that correct?
I've handed that out. It's on
Yes.
the card.
So somewhere between the two.
So about $300.
So-
We need to track the 186
584.
number. That is not an accurate number. It should, there's no comparison. So let's don't bounce between 584 and 186.
So 584 is the real number.
And I'll tell you,
Say
in my
that's close.
history of doing property transfers, the tax assessor is never right. So I always have somebody come in, and I'm always blown away by what they come back with, especially after just a simple comp.
Can
Yes, sir.
I make a
Really
motion?
wasn't done.
Yes, sir, ma'am.
I would like to make a motion.
No,
Well,
we're
this
not
is
making
information
this
only.
information.
Sorry.
I wasn't really done talking. but-
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I think everybody joined in. It wasn't you.
I kind of conduct my meetings like you do in a company, so I'm bad about the rule stuff, so.
No, the reason why I asked, just was trying to see how far apart we were, if it's between 200 and 540, 580.
584.
You're still getting, the government is still getting value out of that, whereas, and that could always easily be said, and we can always say no to anybody else that asks. We got to remember the power of no to people that ask for free stuff. But the government is getting value added by doing
work
this
that they
to them.
Intrinsic value.
So I think I like the 100 with the 100 match, because that at least is a considerable amount that will halfway squelch a little bit of the asks for freebies, but we can always argue that it's helping us.
There's no requirement for us to bid this competitively or to auction it off, is there? I mean, we can pick and choose who we want to sell the property to without interference.
There's certain caveats to how you do it. There's latitude with the commission, but that brings up another topic which we're having a financial management meeting over, so I cannot completely answer that question right now.
So, just for the record, I want to say I want to see them in the building, but without the revert, I wouldn't be able to support it. And I really want them in the building.
I don't understand the question that Commissioner Klein asked and the law director's response, because we've been told time and time again from our
13
chairman that with
votes.
13 votes, you can give away the county building if you want to. So why could you not do it for $200,000?
I don't know, I've heard the same thing.
If I may clarify on that, we're talking about procedure versus the end result, how to get there.
Well,
Well, you can sell it at market value for 13 votes. Anything under market value requires 16 votes.
But if you just gift it, then you don't have to worry about opening it up to anybody to
Well,
bid or auction.
gifting would be 16 votes, I think is what he's saying.
That's right, I think,
So-
you mentioned that before.
Okay.
I appreciated that, so. Okay, so, anyone else have any comments, because we're gonna move along and do the, presentation. We have a presentation, because we wanna move through quickly.
This will be pretty quick, there's not many slides,
So,
so.
if it's
Hi, everybody, I'm
16
Josh
votes, it's
Draper,
fine.
I've met most of you. I'm the project coordinator from the Prevention Coalition. Megan Griffith, our director, would normally have been here with me doing this. She lost her stepmother pretty unexpectedly the other day out of state, so she's with family right now where she needs to be. So hopefully I can clear up a couple of the questions that came up. First of all, it is not our intention to sell the subdivided property to Recovery Corp. We just want to donate that. We don't want to make any money off that whatsoever. We have the same goal that we're trying to achieve, so we want to give that to them. And by the way, if y'all have any questions during the middle of this, just interrupt me, stop me. But hopefully I can quantify some of the taxpayer stuff too, because we do have some figures with some legit studies that have been done. Yes, sir.
Oh, wait,
Oh.
wait.
Motion to suspend.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm terrible about that stuff. Let's say what you guys say.
All in favor?
Okay. Just a brief history of us. So we were started back in 2006 by some of the people you see here now. The judges, District Attorney Ray Whitley, they saw the need for something besides incarceration. And before I go any further, I owe these people my life. Okay? I was incarcerated, and I went through recovery court, and now I'm here. It's been years ago, and I'm thankful for the journey, but it's much better on this side, and they do good work. I believe in what they do. I'll say that before they get up here. But I believe in what we do too. And you do have to have a multi-pronged approach to this stuff. And the people who founded this, Judge Hunter being one of them, Judge Wheatcraft, like I said, General Rip Whitley, they saw that. If you keep throwing somebody in jail over and over and over and over and over, how are they getting rehabilitated? And as concerned citizens and as Christians, we just want to see people get better. So that's kind of our backstory. We were the Anti-Drug Coalition way back then, or the Prevention Coalition now, because we kind of narrowed our focus to primary prevention work. We got 30,000 kids in schools in this county, and we'll get into some of the numbers on that stuff later too. But our mission, real quick, to unite people with vision, commitment, and resources to provide solutions to eliminate substance abuse and make a difference for youth, families, and individuals in Sumner County. And it is limited to just Sumner County. And this is why. So why prevention work? Well, because just in the latest 4 statistical years that the state has put out, we've got over 300 overdose deaths and over 3,500 non-fatal overdoses that is recorded. Now that's not talking about people who have been Narcaned at their house or that never saw any kind of emergency response. That's just the data that they have.
And that's only in Sumner.
That's just Sumner County. Yeah. And they just dropped the state data for 2023 on Friday. I wasn't at that call. I was with the Sumner County Sheriff's Office doing a presentation for them, but it's my understanding that our Sumner County number went up a little bit again this last statistical year. So this is about the schools thing. Yes, we do have to deal with opioid misuse, and we have to deal with prescription misuse, and that's the next one over there. But any prescription drug abuse that they calculate, that they do on these surveys, 12 years old is the age of initiation, the average age of initiation that these kids are doing this. On a personal level, we've been doing prevention days before, and we've done presentations on vaping and done activities like games with them. We have a thing called Escape the Vape. It's an escape game. And we get them talking to us and everything. And several times we've had kids in middle school tell us that they knew kids in elementary school that are vaping regularly. Like, it's a pretty big problem. And if you have any specific questions about these schools in general, one of our letters of support there is from Jerica Mayo, our board president. She's also the safe school supervisor for Sumner County. She can answer that stuff a lot better than I can. But 520, yes, sir.
How do you get that number, 520?
So that is it's actually a percentage, but we calculated it out among the amount of kids that were surveyed in the school climate survey.
So it's self-reporting.
Yes.
So it's probably higher than that.
Probably. All of our, and I know we actually had the question at one point of why do we use local data like this for the schools? Well, first of all, it's anonymous data. Their name is not behind this. And it is active consent. The parents do consent to this. They send it home with their registration paperwork. They don't have to do it, but we're thankful that they do. And I think we've got about 83% participation in it. So there's some alarming stuff in there. There really is. I mean, and we could talk about that later. I don't want to put all of that in here, but it's alarming. The amount of requests for naloxone is also alarming. We teamed up with, and we always do, which one of the members of this committee, Will Taylor, a regional overdose prevention specialist. It wasn't him, it was our region's overdose prevention specialist, but we teamed up with her and gave out over 700 naloxone kits last year.
Narcan.
Yes, Narcan. Narcan and Cloxado is the brand name for them. So we take all this and our board of directors and people who were involved, like volunteers and other that are involved with the coalition, we identified 12 sectors of society. So, you guys, emergency services, healthcare, law enforcement, you name it, we identify it, we get everybody to the table, and we try to come up with strategies that we can find evidence-based studies on how can we tackle this stuff. So we do a lot of school assemblies, presentations, and activities. Last year, 2024, we were in 59 different school events, and we engage with over 5,000 students. Our target is 6th grade through 12th grade. So, I mean, that's a lot. We see a lot of kids. We also, it's not up here, but we did a mass overdose reversal training, a Narcan training for Pope John Paul last year because they've had their own issues with this stuff. Opioid overdose prevention trainings and naloxone distribution. By the way, we have one next week, our Faith Forum. which we do quarterly. It's over at First Baptist Winchester. If any of you want to carry Narcan, you can come to that training. We'll give you lunch. That is next Tuesday from 11:30 to 1. And you'll leave with a Narcan kit. Just holler at me and we can get you signed up for it. And it's free. So we do drug take-back events. So last year, there's 2 major ones. We got one coming up this coming month, April, and then there's another one in October. Last year, we collected over 1,000 pounds of expired and unused medications at those events. We do them at 8 locations around the county. And then we also push the permanent drop-off locations at city municipalities that they've got their own places. But that's how much we collected at those drug take-back events. Drug and alcohol classes, we have a victim impact panel that we do. If you get a DUI in Sumner County, you are required to attend. Now, it's open to anybody, and you're all welcome to come to one if you want. Our next one is the 18th that night over at the jury assembly room in the bottom of the courthouse. Now, this building, by the way, we'll get into it a little bit more in a second, but that's also county money that's being spent by the taxpayers too. It's after hours, and so you're having to keep the lights on, you're having to keep a deputy there. That's where we do our victim impact panel. With the purchase of this building, we'll be able to do it at our facility, and so it relieves that burden. And there's some other ones too. For schools in particular, the drug and alcohol classes, we do a first offenders class. So if you get caught with a vape, for instance, a marijuana, a THC vape, they will send you to first offenders class. And that's where in that class, we split up kids and parents. We have some different activities and lessons for each one of them. For the parents, we have a 16-foot cargo trailer that the inside of it looks like a teen's bedroom. We go through with them, so this is where your kid could be hiding stuff. This is where, they could conceal a vape in this hoodie because they make this hoodie that is, specifically for vaping. So we show parents that. We talk to them about, okay, how do you confront your kid about this stuff if you find it? With the kids, they do, some of the same stuff we do in the schools, the anti-vaping stuff, anti-prescription drugs, because that's a big one too. So we also do a respond class for R.T. Fisher, the kids who have gotten in trouble a few times. And we're looking to expand that too. There's some love and logic classes, parent education events and town halls, but I just spoke about some of that. Faith forums, I talked about that. And we do those, so the faith forum is something we do at a church every quarter that they cover different things. One might be suicide prevention, and we'll get Jason Foundation or Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network. They'll do a training, but we always feed you, and there's some sort of training aspect to it usually, and how it relates to the faith community, because churches have to address this stuff too. I personally know the shame that you have to overcome. You come out of addiction, that's great, and you want to get your life on track, and you go to church, and you feel like everybody there's better than you, and you don't want to go anymore. I've been there. And it's tough to overcome that. And so we discuss that kind of stuff with different churches in the community. And I think the one after this, we may do another adverse childhood experiences training. We did one of those last year too. So there is data behind this stuff that says that communities that actually put effort into not necessarily, the first stat is not necessarily a coalition, but communities that effectively address substance misuse have 44% less prevalence of use among adolescents. If you want to see these stats, you can go to Prevention Alliance of Tennessee. They've got their methodology on there and everything. Prevention Alliance of Tennessee. And then communities that fund coalitions beyond that see an additional 19% decrease in youth drug use. Now, the way that they do this stuff, they took a study and they applied this stuff locally to Tennessee. Columbia University did a study several years ago, but they came up with a formula how to compare communities that have coalitions and substance misuse prevention messaging against the ones that don't. And so that's where this stuff comes from. And it's like Danny's not over there. Like he was talking about earlier, there are hard stats to show that over time, prevention work does actually decrease the burden on the taxpayer. We referred to the property as the actual parcel number because I know there was 139, 117, so we just referred to the parcel number. So at the beginning of this, we talked to some of the members about like what our needs actually were, because right now, guys, this all started because I showed up to the office, and when I got there, there was somebody from a bank taking pictures of the outside of the building, and I never found out why exactly, but a few weeks later, people started coming in and touring the building and looking at the floor plan layout and what they might want to do with it. And so our landlords are from out of state. It seems as though they're interested in selling it. And so this all started getting talked about with us in recovery court. And so we came up with a list of the things that we actually need. And Commissioner Klein, you've been in our office. You saw our impaired driving carts are literally right by the door as soon as you walk in. We don't have a whole lot of room. But this would give us a permanent location, and I'm going to stress that. We want this to be permanent. We don't want to sell it down the road. And I know my words are just words, but Megan and I both plan to retire from the coalition. And I mean, it's more than a job to us. This is a calling. It's our life, not just our livelihood. So yeah, we want it to be permanent. It will let us expand our current initiatives, the things that we do, give us some more space, but it'll also open us up to a whole new world of new initiatives. Some of that are in the packets, I think, that you have. Storage, accessibility for loading and unloading equipment and supplies, like those. Have y'all seen our impaired driving carts? Those things they're not light. I mean, they're lighter than a golf cart, but you know, I think one of them weighs 113 pounds, and right now, you know, you have to go up steps to get into our office, and it's a daunting task sometimes. We need a location that allows for future renovations related to ADA compliance, because we're also not ADA compliant right now at all, not even close. And so, you know, we're fully prepared to do that part of it. We've looked into it, and we know what the ADA requirements are going to be that we would have to deal with, so we're comfortable with that. Stability regarding long-term permanent occupancy. Obviously, that is a big thing to us. I mean, that's the whole reason we're pursuing this, is because we don't have a whole lot of security at our location right now. An elimination of rent to divert $16,200. That's what we're paying a year right now, but we are on a month-to-month. We expect that to go up in July or August to about $18,000 a year, so $1,500 a month. We can use that in a lot better places. So the new initiatives that we want to try to do with this thing. First and foremost, when we started talking about this, I told you I'm in recovery. I'm an old pill addict, but I came up through AA. I got sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, and so they mean a lot to me. 12-step groups in general do. This would provide free meeting space. We want to renovate part of it. We can knock some walls down and open up a big meeting space, and we want 12-step groups to be able to come in there anytime they want to. Yes?
Would y'all be doing like celebrate recovery and stuff there?
Anybody that wants it. Just schedule it and you can have it. I mean, we want to open that up to whomever. As long as you're not stepping on anybody else's toes at a meeting time, you know. I would love to see it scheduled every hour of the day, 24 hours a day. But yeah, I'm not a one-size-fits-all kind of guy. You know, however you can recover, do it. Celebrate Recovery, AA, NA, and then support groups too, Al-Anon, and there's other stuff like that it doesn't have to necessarily be a 12-step, but just support groups. We would supply the community with a naloxone vending machine, an outdoor naloxone vending machine that's also accessible 24/7. We actually already have that kind of wrapped up. We just have to find a location for it next year with the opioid abatement funds. Allocate classroom space for celebrating families, which it's a mental health court, or is it recovery court that does it?
It's recovery court.
It is recovery court. So
And we'll talk about that tonight.
awesome. And it's a great. By the way, celebrating families. If you make some good food, or you want to donate some food, they ask for sign. I think they have sign-up genius for that. I try to make them barbecue every year. First offenders class, we talked about that. Love and Logic, we talked about that. And we'll be able to host trainings, including the overdose trainings. One of the things that we spoke with the fire chief, the volunteer fire department chief about, was he said he's been wanting to do CPR classes, and we said, great, bring it in there. Do it all the time. You know, we want you to have CPR classes. And then the ACEs one, suicide prevention. You know, we want to get it all in there. We truly want this to be a community space. Bless you. We have talked to Hal Hendricks, and we've got a letter in there from him. We're going to partner with the health department and do off-site health services, so like a remote WIC office. He actually suggested that in one of our substance abuse subcommittee meetings of the Health Council. He said that the state had provided guidance that, hey, maybe you should try doing, you know, remote WIC office stuff. And so he approached us about it. We said, yeah, that's fine, you know. So that's something that they could do once every couple of weeks, or even once a week if they needed to. They just need some office space, is what he said, just for a little bit. And flu shots too. They would do a flu shot clinic whenever those happen. So collaborate with Recovery Court, which we try to do at every chance we get, to subdivide property. I told you we don't want to make a penny off that. We want them to have that. You know, y'all can talk about however that needs to happen. If it needs to be on our end, we can do it. If y'all do it beforehand, that's fine too. But we want them to have that because they can use that rundown house that's on the property for a CHI grant. And we would love to see it actually be turned into something that's, you know, positive over there. And then we can establish a youth coalition. Now, there's not a ton of those around, but we do a leadership summit every year with all of the high schools in the county, bring them about 200 some odd kids over to Palace Theater. Then we have breakout sessions for them, and we do some prevention messaging and training for them. And what they end up doing is they go to the middle schools, the high schoolers do, they go to the middle schools and they teach the middle schoolers about, you know, prevention for substance abuse, or not vaping, or not getting into binge drinking. So it's kind of a train the trainer thing. We want to expand that because there's counties like Weakley County, Anderson County. I've got some colleagues up in Graves County, Kentucky. They have really strong youth coalitions, and I see pictures all over social media of all the stuff that their kids are doing, and it's not just, you know, empty kid activities. Like, these kids are influencing policy change, and they're getting involved, and so we want to see more of that here. And we've got a really good opportunity to do it, and we've got the capacity to do it. So this is the taxpayer thing I was telling you about. That study from Columbia University, when broken down to a county level, when it is applied, this is the average across Tennessee. Every dollar that is used for prevention in the state of Tennessee is a $12.18 taxpayer saving. At the state level, it's only $4.60. But it's like anything else. At the local level, you guys are going to be a little bit more efficient than, you know, and as you go up, things are not as efficient. At the local level, we can be pretty efficient with that taxpayer dollar. The burden spending that they classify, treatment services, incarcerations, food assistance, healthcare, mental health services, and guys, and not to mention, like I said, courthouse space, RT Fisher classroom space, health department space. So, you know, those are other burdens that are being relieved from the county, from the taxpayer, that they don't have to worry about. So, investment in prevention coalition often leads to decreases. This is also something they found in the study: decreases in teen pregnancy, truancy, domestic violence, and child abuse, and increases in academic success, healthy families, and economic growth. I mean, guys, most of y'all know what we do at this point, and you know, if you want more information, come to us. And you know, there's no way I could fit all of the stuff we do in here, and it's just Megan and me staff-wise. So you know, that's something else that we'll have to look at in the future. But yeah, we at the end of the day. One other thing, and I don't know. Do you have that offer letter?
It's already passed out.
Okay, so I know y'all were saying match 100,000 with 100,000. the thing that we had the board vote on was the initial tax assessment, which I understand is null and void. But they voted to use I think $87,000. Yeah, which, I mean, we can, if we need to go back for another vote for the board, that's fine, but that's the way I understood it, so that's what they voted on. But yeah, that's what we were, everything was kind of predicated on that initial tax assessment. That's why we gave that amount. So, but yeah, our board has voted to offer that amount contingent upon the 100,000. Yeah.
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we've talked many times, I love the work you do and all that.
Thank you.
And you heard me say, I want to support it. Do you have any problem if we were to put a reverter clause in there?
No.
If you were to go out of business, that
No,
the
goes back
county
to the
gets to
county,
keep it?
not at all. No.
'Cause-
Jerica, you got any problem with that? No, that, in fact, I mean, I think it's only fair. So, yeah, we don't want, we don't want to see the property's always been for community service. We don't want to see it be anything other than that.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah,
yes,
no,
ma'am. Oh.
thank you for your work.
Yes,
I wanna
ma'am.
say that.
Chairman Burkle?
And so your board, you stated that you're fully prepared to do the ADA compliance?
Yes. Yeah, we've actually already spoken with an inspector about what it would, would be required in that, with parking and, yeah, I mean, there's just some dimensions that have, we'll have to tear some walls out and we'll have to, but I think you brought this up, Commissioner Klein, in a Gen Ops meeting before, that it's probably cheaper for us to do it than it would be for you guys to do it.
Yeah.
So-
Why?
It's all the
Government.
architectural stuff.
They have a lot of volunteer help.
And we do.
So you're going to do, okay, but you will do the same things?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
just with different help. That's what I was asking.
yeah, we intend for that to be like, we don't want it to be an eyesore. We want it to look nice. We want it to be presentable, habitable. We want that to be a nice space.
You have a great fence around it too, I love that fence.
There is a good fence around
You can get rid of that.
Okay.
Josh,
Yes, sir.
do you see any problem, just trying to satisfy Commissioner Boyd, do you see any problem with the reverter clause as far as grants or anything?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
mean, you guys probably have more experience with, do they care about that?
Right, you have to own the property.
Right, but the reverter clause, we would own it, right?
Yes, you
But
don't-
it's just, if we sold it, it would, or if we were, if for whatever reason it left us, it would have to go back to them.
I'm trying to figure out, Scott, it's a yes or no. We've never
Might
had
be
that.
worth looking
We've never
at.
had to
Yeah,
write
we can
that
look into
in
it.
there. Yes or no, on a reverter.
Do you happen to know, Dustin?
You fill
I
out the
have not had
grants.
an issue on the reverter clause. What I will say is, for example, a few years ago, when we were doing the grants for low and moderate income for Sumner County families that needed assistance that were over a certain age, we were able to give them money, and some of the houses were not even fully owned, but they did have mortgages, they did have other clauses attached to them, and they were still able to use our funds that we got from the state. So the state approved it, and we approved it as well.
Yeah, from the beginning, we have had absolutely no issue with that. And in fact, I think, like I said, I think it's fair and I think it's the right thing to do. So,
Basically, it's just saying, we own the property, but if we decide to sell it.
it has to go back to you.
Yeah.
Or at least you have first dibs on it.
Right of first
Exactly.
refusal,
First right of
something.
refusal or something.
So, and by the way, guys, just from speaking to all of y'all, thank you for believing in what we do.
Absolutely.
I do.
But at the end of the day, our board of directors even, it's, well, Wendy's not in, she's on there too. Kit was, our old director. It's community partners, it's community members.
No, you
that-
guys do great work.
Yeah, and all of them they care, they just want to see good work done. Yes, Dustin?
Regarding the reverter clause, I may have a way around it. I will need to have private discussions with legal and the finance director, and I will have a, hopefully, solution for you all at the Opioid Abatement Committee. It may cause us to have a little bit more funds that we may have to spend, but it could be possible.
Hey. More money.
So, yeah, do y'all have any other questions for me or anything? Okay. Thank y'all so much for your time, I appreciate it. And if you have any questions later on, feel free to reach out to us at the office, stop by and see us if you can get over there. well, you have to enter through East Franklin Street, and that's not really passable right now, so. But thank you, we appreciate it.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to our agenda.
Can I, just one more question?
Excuse me.
Oh.
On this topic? No. So where does this go from here? Will we have it back at the opioid or?
So to address that question,
We have to go back in session.
I'm sorry.
Just bring us back.
Just
We'll
say
go
we
back
are.
in session.
To answer Commissioner Boyd's question, where Gen Ops does have Shamrock and Opioids does have me, I will be accompanying both of these proposals all the way through, number one. So if Opioids meets before Gen Ops does, then Opioids will be looking at it as, do we want to fund these projects? And it would be contingent upon Gen Ops approving the projects to move forward to the county commission. If Gen Ops meets first and you all approve it, then it'd be contingent upon the funding coming from the Opioid Abatement Committee. And so I will be following both projects all the way through, hopefully up to the county commission, so that way you have one point of contact that can address all the questions and be a staple on this one for you all.
Gen Ops will meet April 7th.
And I believe that Opioids is entertaining the meeting date at the end of this meeting.
Yeah, we'll talk about a meeting, President.
Thank you for that update.
Okay, so we're gonna start on part A, renovation of the former General Sessions Court. And so we'll be discussing funding sources and a presentation for direct allocation. So I'll let you.
The same with the Summer Prevention Coalition's request. You are getting our finance notes. So looking at the proposal that's being brought to you by Judge Blanton, just to be clear, there's going to be two entities. From my standpoint, it does get kind of confusing. So you have Recovery Court, which is the judicial side, is requesting opioid funds for the renovation of the former General Sessions Court area, and you have Recovery Court Incorporated, which is the not-for-profit side. It's requested their funding from our regular round of opioid funds for relocation, and so that has been recommended by the Opioid Abatement Committee. About the property, General Sessions Court has been relocated to the new county courthouse, which opened in June of 2024. According to the ADA documentation, which will be passed up momentarily, the county jail and court area is 241,172 square feet and was built in 1971. Judge Blanton and Recovery Court are not asking for the full use of the building. The Sheriff's Office is requesting the additional use that will not be renovated. About the Recovery Court plans, Finance is unaware of any formal adopted plans for the future of the former General Sessions site. The facility is 54 years old and the lifespan has not been determined. The facility will have to be in ADA compliance, door frames, cabinets, parking lots, and there is a small contingency in the budget. However, with the cost of steel, wood, and additional materials expected to increase, the amounts may not be enough. About the potential use of the property, the current plans incorporate the not-for-profit portion of recovery courts. The question was brought about with discussion with legal, should the county government be renting to not-for-profits? What would occur if another not-for-profit wants to rent a vacant property or space? That's something that you all would need to consider. Recovery Court Incorporated has stated that savings generated by moving to the renovated facility would help offset Recovery Court expenses. You need to take into consideration what those savings will be spent on, which I know Judge Blanton will be addressing. If the renovation is pursued, how will Gen Ops negotiate the lease? And if the renovation plans were to exclude recovery courts, not-for-profits, they would need to come in front of the Opioid Abatement Committee to allow them to purchase nearby property to place their administrative offices. That is just a change of scope. So looking at it at this point in time, according to ADA transition plan, and this is for the whole area. This is not just for the area that Judge Blanton and Recovery Court not-for-profit is looking at. It would be $752,081. I have not broken this down yet as far as what would be contributed to what the Sheriff's Department is wanting to do with their side versus what recovery courts are wanting to do on their side. In addition, here are the documents showing the ADA pages regarding the facility. And then
What paper was the 752,000 on?
this one.
Where's
It's
it
right
at?
here.
One of the middle columns.
Bottom middle.
Uncoded.
Okay,
Right,
thank you,
square.
gotcha.
2025.
This is the same.
We're going, oh, okay, good pictures. That's, I was wondering what area we're talking about in the building.
Oh, just more of that, more of that. It's just more of those, yeah.
Which, can I ask?
Did you go on the tour with us?
I've been in the courtrooms. I mean, I've been in them when they weren't
So,
there.
wait a minute.
I was,
Can I bring you back in order? So are you doing?
The last thing I have, comment-wise from the finance standpoint, this does meet the state funding guidelines under Exhibit E, and so we would recommend discussions with Recovery Court to see if this is something that you all want to pursue, just like the Summer Prevention Coalition. And with that, I have nothing else to conclude.
Okay, now the question.
if you could just, I'm wondering right off the bat, there's a lot of information all at once. What areas are we talking about? And I'm familiar with it as it was before. Are we talking about Judge Key's courtroom and Judge Gay's, or
I'm gonna cover
Mr.
that
Blatt's
all in
gonna
my
cover it?
presentation.
Thank
Everything,
you.
what part of the building, how much of the building, what rooms we're gonna use, all of that's gonna be in my presentation.
Will that also be like the cost?
Hang on, hang on. Let's do it this way, so we're not getting ahead of ourselves. Let's let Judge Blanton do his presentation.
Perfect.
And then we can ask questions as we see that. So I'm gonna suspend the rules and allow him to do his grant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sure you all had a long day like me and want to get straight to it, so I don't beat
Thank
around the
you.
bush too much. We're gonna get right to this proposal that, this grant money. We're seeking, and by the way, as most of you know, Judge Hunter, is unable to be here tonight. He is recovering. He had another surgery yesterday, but he is, he's doing okay. I've talked to him. He's got some challenges ahead, but I'm going to be speaking both for Recovery Court and for the foundation. I've gone over with them, and members of the Recovery Court Board of Foundation are here. So when you get caught up in this, Recovery Court Inc. is the 501(c). I'll probably refer to them as the foundation as opposed to drug court. I'll refer to drug court as what we operate out of our court system, both Judge Gay and I, and then the foundation is what supplements Recovery Court through our 501(c). So we're seeking an appropriation from the Opioid Abatement Committee and approval through the General Ops Committee to use 8,000 square foot of space to centralize our locations for not only Recovery Court, but for the foundation and what they do and how they supplement what we do in Recovery Court. Now, just to clarify, the portion of the building that we want to use was actually built in 1998 and was opened then. Before that, where my old courtroom sat, at the back where my office was, that was the end of the building. And in 1998, they built on to the back of that building to create the criminal court, courtroom B, which was Judge Brian McCormick's court, and then down the hallway there on the left was the clerk's office that was expanded during that period of time. So that was when that building was added on to and court started in that process. We are looking to use, and I'll get to it in just a minute, but one of the reasons why we want to do this, we want to create a hub for everybody, for people in Recovery Court, other people that are have interest in trying to get into treatment. They can come as one place, one source for them to come for help. We intend to show what we want to use with the area, to use celebrating families, to have IOP through our foundation meet, create an area to expand what we have now, and I'll show you pictures of what we operate now and show you what the space is that we intend to use and how we can expand. Right now, we can handle about 100 people in our Recovery Court. We have close to 75, 76, fluctuates week to week, going into, or in our recovery court at this point in time. By going to this, we'll be able to possibly expand that because we'll have more room for people to come and do the classes. It also just opens up for everybody one place to go. That's right now we have recovery court staff works upstairs. Our foundation meets across the street in a rented building, and they also have an office down where we also have another recovery court person who works at a third location. And we pay, the foundation pays the rent on both of those buildings, even though we have a county employee in that one of the foundations that they rent. We have them housed in there because we don't have any space where we're at now. And I'll show you that. If you've ever been over to the courthouse, when you walked into the front where my courtroom was, there's a set of stairs that went up and turned and just kept turning. And Tracy's office is upstairs in what was a converted attic. Attic, not addict, but was an addict, and so we go from there. It meets all the funds requirements of the Opioid Abatement Committee, as was spelled out earlier. We've had our recovery court since 2003. Tracy's been our only director, Tracy Bryant. She's here tonight. She does a phenomenal job. We have 3 full-time right now employees, and in recovery court we have 3 full-time, 1 part-time that's getting ready, hopefully to move to full-time, and then in our mental health court, which falls under the recovery court umbrella, we have a full-time and a part-time, and we're hoping to move that part-time up at some point in time in the future as well. But they're spread out over 3 buildings. Granted, they are close, but there's still 3 separate buildings. And we want to consolidate all of those under one roof. At the same time, do it in a facility that makes it easy for us to meet with inmates who are housed in the jail, because most of the people that come into recovery court are in jail, and we have to do a screening process, and this will allow a secured area for them to do the screening process. Right now we have to check them out and they go upstairs, or we go back into the jail to do that assessment, and that will be, as I'll show you, in a whole separate area. We're a specialized court. Like I said, we've been in existence to 2003. We have a capacity of 100. We have about 75 right now. We graduate 7 to 15 graduates twice a year. Many of you have been to our graduation. We are going to have our graduation in May. We still try to have them now on Thursday nights instead of Monday nights, so that we give members of the commission an opportunity to come. We want you to come. We want you to see what we do and how lives are changed. Our goals is to reduce recidivism. You've probably heard me talk ad nauseum about this. We have probably the best recidivism rate of anywhere in the country. In general sessions, our recidivism rate is less than 8%. In criminal court, it's less than 14%. The statewide average is over 50. The nationwide average is 74. So that gives you a little bit about how our system works. We have our participants engaged in supervised treatment, counseling, drug testing. 2 to 3 times a week they're drug tested. And accountability. We hold them accountable. Judge Gay and I meet with them every single Monday night, except if we have a holiday. And then I read them the Riot Act before and after the holiday. They better pass their drug test. Because we hold them accountable. They go back to jail. They may have to go back to treatment. They may have a series of other sanctions that we have to make sure that they are held accountable. It's a team-based approach. We have our judges, Judge Gay and I, and then Judge Brian McCormick in mental health court. We meet with participants each week. They also meet with Tracy and her staff at least 2 to 3 times a week. And I'll talk more about not just there, but we go to where they live, and I'll explain how that works as well. They serve as their probation officers, and it's a phased program where in the beginning, when you come back from treatment, you're in phase 1 and you can't leave the house. You're basically on house arrest. until you earn the right to move to phase 2, and then you earn the right to move to phase 3, and you earn the right to move to phase 4 before you graduate. And it doesn't just happen. You have to put in the work. There's classes, multitude of different classes that they have to complete, from moral recognition training to budget. We have a budgeting class. Most of these people never had a bank account before. We teach them how to save money so that when they graduate from the program, they have money in the bank. They use their money to they pay rent on the building where they stay. They use their money to pay court costs. You know, people says, man, I might be able to buy a car we've had people at graduation be able to buy their first car and pay cash for it. We help them get their driver's license back. The benefits is public safety and incarceration cost. It costs somewhere, Dustin, you might be able to help, you may not know. It costs somewhere between $24 and $27 a day to house an inmate in our jail. Okay? You're not paying that when they're in recovery court. All right? That's a day-to-day cost. It helps them long-term recovery. That's where that recidivism number comes in. It's so low because we have a very active alumni group. Our alumni group has a mixed softball team that plays in a local league that promotes recovery court. They have kickball tournaments. They feed Thanksgiving dinner for those in the program have no place else to go. That's what our alumni, those are people that have graduated from our program. And they're back every Monday night at our staffing. We have members of our alumni come back. It strengthens families and communities, and I'll get into more about that in a few minutes. Here's some data. Again, population that shows you how many people we've had come into the program, how many graduated, the participants that we've served. And that's from 2017. You'll notice that in 2025, just in the first 2 quarters alone, we're going to blow away what we did last year. Okay? And so we're growing, so we need a bigger space to help with the classes and stuff. And that also plays into the foundation, because the foundation also offers classes that we require of our people that come back from treatment. And they offer an intensive outpatient program that we want to use this space for. Right now, and you'll see, we're limited in the number of people we can have in there. But that's not just available for people in recovery court. It's available for anybody in this county can come and go through our IOP system. We now have it set up. They recently, through the foundation, hired a professional counselor and they've employed a service that takes insurance now. So people who are outside the community that need to be in an intensive outpatient program can come to our program. These are some of the people that we deal with. Community outreach, NA, AA, Mental Health Co-op, Sumner Prevention Coalition, Veteran Services. We have a veterans track for people who have been in the military. We help them with their veterans benefits. We have a guy in our program right now who's mid-60s. He's mid-60s, long-term drug user, was stationed in Germany for a really long time. He had no idea that he had the right to any of these veteran benefits for the entire time he's been out. And we got him hooked up through a recovery court with the veterans. We took him, and he doesn't pay for his medical stuff anymore because all this is related to his service. And so, those are type of things that we do in this program. Now, helping the unhoused. Through our foundation, we operate 5 or 6 recovery houses. We own one. The foundation does. I'm talking about foundation now. I'm going to be stepping out of drug court into the foundation world. The foundation owns one house and they lease 5 others. And we use those houses to house people who are coming back from treatment, who are in our program, who have nowhere else to go. And they pay rent on these properties. They, through the foundation, they pay all the electricity, all the rent, water, the upkeep And of course, our participants share in that upkeep. We always have somebody, typically in our program, that works construction or works as a tree service or works as a painter or in some other type of field. And we had an incident in one of our houses at Castilian where a big tree came down during the storm. And we were like, got a call, Tracy calls, says, hey, we got a tree down at Castilian, it's blocking the roadway. And little did I know that the very next day, one of the guys that living there worked for a tree service, and they had it all chopped up, ready to go, yard cleaned and everything. So those are things that our foundation, they have this house. They're wanting the property next door to the Prevention Coalition. Should you give that property to them, that particular property would then be transferred to the foundation. And with that ownership of that property, then they can seek grants to build a home for mothers with children who are in our program. Right now, we have 2 of those situations, and they live in what's called Recovery Communities Incorporated. They have a house that they built down in Nashville just for those participants, and that's where they're at, down in Nashville. And it's hard for them to get up to staffing because they don't drive, but they're in the facility there. We're wanting to build a facility close here that we can have them within our county, but still provide that same type of service. The kids live with them at the property until they graduate the program, or we can find them other housing. Celebrating Families, you've heard about that. That is a program that is used to connect families that are separated through addiction. We have many mothers and fathers who've lost custody of their children that don't have a way to even see their children. Help them get back into the family nexus as best as they can, reunite with their kids. We've had several ladies and men get custody of their kids back by coming through this program and through Celebrating Families. It's a program that they meet, they come together, they bring the children together, and it's an introduction. A lot of them haven't seen their moms or their dads in 5 or 6 years. And this is a way of working with them through this counselor that the foundation pays for, of reuniting these families together. We had a situation, an unusual situation that happened year before last, where we get a knock at one of our recovery houses, and it's DCS. It wasn't there to arrest anybody. They had an 11-year-old boy who'd never seen his mom before, who they were giving custody of this child back to the mother because they had no place else to go. So we're scrambling, but we find her an apartment. The foundation does. They pay for the apartment to get in there. We have a clothes drive to get him shoes, clothes, get him signed up for school, and it's all come through this, and it's in conjunction with the Celebrating Families. And so by renovating this space, we'll have a permanent place where they can meet. Current challenges: lack of a central office space, inaccessibility. Only through stairway can you get up to to where Tracy and them are located. Limited classroom space for where we can have any classes. We have no place for recovery court. We have to use the foundation's space to have any type of meeting.
I would like to add that stairwell's dangerous. I almost put my leg on it. I did that.
It's not ADA approved.
I don't think it's legal.
The foundation operates separately, causing some inefficiencies because they're separated. Bringing them under one roof will help that. Through our recovery court, stepping back into recovery court now, we have many of our participants that are in what medication-assisted treatment, and that is usually with Vivitrol, which is an injection that they receive that makes them sick if they use any type of drug. And we have a doctor who comes, or a nurse practitioner that comes and administrates a shot once a week, or however often this participant. We have no place. We have Vivitrol sitting in the hallways upstairs because there's no place to store it. And so that's one of the reasons we also want to have this. It's in a storage closet, which you will see. We have no room to grow. Here are the different offices. Then the bottom left hand is where we have our mental health court and personnel, and then a person who, both of those are involved in our drug court, not foundation, but they're paid, that office space is paid for by the foundation. Then on the right, you have the Long and Taylor building there assigned, but that part of the building is where our foundation's meeting space, where they conduct IOP, we use that room to do our gender-specific training for people in recovery. You have gender-specific is where you have classes for just women, because there's issues that they don't want to talk about in front of men. And we have a gender-specific men's group, because there's issues that they have that they don't want to talk about in front of women. So we use their space that they pay for in order to conduct these classes. And as you'll see, they're not very big rooms. Now, that first on South Water, the foundation pays $1,300 a month in rent for that. On the right, bottom right hand of that picture with the Long and Taylor building is, they pay $1,300 for that, plus they have to pay for all the utilities. And the South Foster, the utilities are included there. So you're looking at almost $3,000 in cost that they're out each month just for offices. As you can see, Recovery Court Foundation pays the rent and utilities, and it's primarily used by the foundation for board meetings, IOP, gender-specific class. We also have a men's-specific gender class and other. Here's our famous stairway to, no, we won't go there. The stairway goes up, it turns to the left, it goes back up again, and to get to Tracy's office, it splits up there. You can go to Tracy's office one way, and you can go to one of our other staff members on the other side. All right? It's not ADA.
The picture made those steps look wide.
Yeah, but it did. Those steps are about as wide as this table, maybe. We have our MRT classes that is part of our program. We have those at our South Foster, across the street at the foundation. Those are every Wednesday night. They hold 13 people is the most that we can get in there. It's got a wait list because we can't put any more people in this room. They also use that space for their alumni. They have meetings. Mental health participants are over there waiting to meet with the administrator of mental health court. And so that's one thing. But then we have the intensive outpatient program that meets it right across the street. As you can see, it can hold about 15 people around that table, maybe 15 people. You got to understand that this camera is right up on the wall looking out. And so there's really not much space at all. There's a door immediately to the right here, and you can see there's an office here. That goes on the sidewalk. All right, this is a small office here. There's another small office, and that's how big that facility is. It'll hold 12 people, not 15, I'm sorry. They do 6 classes a week in that building just for IOP. We use it for other purposes as well. Our gender-specific groups, as I said, the men, they talk about stuff that they can't necessarily talk about in front of the other gender. The women's group meets weekly on Thursday. They have 15 to 20. That's what their age ranges are. They're responsible for their own health, child care if they have children. The men's group is the same way. It says 15 to 20% participants a week, and it has the same age range that we have in that. As I pointed out, Recovery Court Foundation now has added a licensed professional counselor with a mental health specialty to our staff through grant funding. They do and operate the Celebrating Families class as well as any other related issues regarding addiction and other matters. Bringing her on board, we were able to now go through with United Health, Blue Cross Blue Shield, WellPoint, Humana, which is opening us up to a whole lot more people that we can serve, not just people in recovery court, but people in our community. And I make that announcement in my court every morning. We have an IOP that meets down the street. It's available to everyone so that they know about it. She'll be able to do mental health diagnosis where we were having to pay to send somebody out They had to foot the bill for their assessment. They don't have to do that anymore because we have somebody that the foundation has hired. And they want to take our intensive outpatient program by being able to add more to that. With that is what they call a partial hospitalization plan, where they're partialized. They go to a hospital first, and then they're referred out to us for an outpatient, mandatory outpatient treatment plan that they have to attend. They asked us to get a letter from the foundation. Judge Hunter provided us a letter, asked because of how close they work together. And I'm going to show you some numbers here in a few minutes of just how much the foundation means to drug court. But they are in compliance. They want to support. They are a big part of our funding arm for things that we do. In addition to all the grants, they provide clothes, hygiene products. They collect money from private donor. They purchase food sometimes for the houses. They help people with their court costs. If somebody is working really hard and they participated in the program and their court costs are so large that even though they're spending every bit of their money, on occasion before they end the program, the foundation will come up and pay off their court costs so when they leave the program, they don't have anything that's holding over their head. You can go ahead. A need for a combined space because we do operate so closely together. A lot of times if somebody's going to come to IOP, which is from the foundation, then they'll have meetings with the recovery court people afterwards. And if it's in the same building, they're not walking across the street in pouring rain or whatever it is. By having them under one roof, both of those entities, although they operate separately and they'll be in separate parts of that combined space, they'll be under the same roof to be able to interact with each other on a regular basis. They collect data just like we collect data. They have to have that data for their grants that they get. And so, that's, somebody mentioned about a 10-bedroom apartment. That would be their dream if we foundation could purchase an apartment building so we could expand our housing anymore. That really keeps us from putting more people in recovery court, because most of the people that come in recovery court have no place to live. And so by offering this housing as a part of that, it's a key factor. So what does the foundation do in drug court? On average, they take in about $243,000 through grants. This is a typical grant and donations from private citizens. We have a couple of people and a couple of businesses that donate large amounts of money to our foundation. What they pay out to the drug court participants is about $202,000 a year. That's what they add to our program. Not through grants or anything else. This is foundation money that they help us with. They pay the rent, which is about $150,000 a year for those homes. They pay the utilities on all those homes. If there's something that needs to be fixed, they pay for that. Counseling, if we have to have somebody go to an outside counselor that we don't have a grant for, they will pay for that participant to go to that outside counseling. They help with driver's license, with fines, repairs. They contribute about $5,600 each year for our 2 graduation ceremonies. They help with the medication, the Vivitrol and other medications that we have to give people who are in recovery court who couldn't afford them otherwise. And then just participant needs. So they give a whole lot to what we do, and they're a very vital part of it. All right, this is what I was talking about. There's your Vivitrol in the boxes lined up along the wall because we have no space. They have this little small office area where they give the injections for Vivitrol. They meet with the nurse practitioner. He goes through everything with them and then gives them the shot. And then they're out the door. So, as you can see, it's really private in there. We got tennis shoes, we got boxes, we got everything going on in there. This is our storage area. We have, it's the only location for closed files. Since 2003, that's the only place we have to put closed files. There's a lot of case files, and they're stacked up everywhere. We don't have any more space to put files. As I said, I can just keep going on. These are the offices. The one up the top right is Tracy's office. It's at the top of the maze of stairs. On the left is the opposite across from her, and then we have down at the, or I'm sorry, this is the office across from her, and then these two offices are on the second floor. You got to understand that's when we counsel. If you got somebody waiting, they're sitting at the chair waiting their turn to talk to you, so we don't have a real lot of privacy. If they have drug tests, we have to take them downstairs to the bathroom to drug test them. We have nothing upstairs. You just hope and pray that nobody trips and falls. Benefits of doing old part of the courthouse, increases of capacity, it's a dedicated space for storage, educational research, drug tests, improved collaboration between the foundation and recovery court. It has a designated space for clothing. It's easier, safer, it makes it ADA compliant right off the bat. Now here's the proposed layout. This area here, back, if you know where Judge Gay's courtroom was, it started right here. And that would go, it goes up to, there is a pillar that sticks out in the hallway right here. If you walk down that hallway, you'll see it. That's where the wall would go across.
Scott,
this is clerk's
can you make
office
that any
space
bigger?
here.
We'll see if we can make that any bigger. Cut the top off.
It's in the folder. I'm having
Thanks.
trouble too.
Okay.
If you see this, if you walk down you can scoot it back up if you want to do that.
Cut off the title.
Yeah, there you go. You go down this, we have this corridor where you come in to get into mental health court. They would have a space here, mental health court here, mental health court. They would have their own bathroom space. They would have meeting space so they can have a separate meeting space from recovery court. If you go down on the left-hand side, this would be mainly where a lot of the foundation would be on the left-hand side. It'd be their office area. This would be a giant conference room for them to do IOP. They could do the celebrating families in there. We could have all the gender-specific classes with enough space to grow that.
Ron, the top wall that runs side to side, that's the exterior wall.
That's the exterior wall.
And that's the double doors out.
That's the double doors out.
We'd have to build a ramp there, right?
Yes, and talking with, there's a couple different options for the ramp. And that would just really depend on what the architecture says, of which direction they would have to go in order to meet ADA guidelines to get up there. And then this is how it would be built out. This is the shaded area is Judge Brian McCormick's courtroom. Judge
Who's Brian McCormick?
Key Brian McCormick. Judge Brian McCormick.
I got you.
Her old courtroom was down on this side.
Okay.
And it would be converted into they would build out walls for offices. They'd have bathrooms, storage area. Then back here we have the old jury room that was behind her courtroom that could be converted into a classroom. It has bathrooms off of it. You would have, going up if you could please. If you knew where Judge Gay's courtroom, he had an office and there was a water fountain and it had a connecting storage area right here. This is Judge Gay's office. This is where the copy machine was in this office. This would be, all this would go to the sheriff with a wall built across here. That's what the sheriff would keep, and we would keep everything down this way. What the benefit of that is I'll show you in a picture, this is a secured hallway where inmates could come, they have no way out, and come in, and they can come straight into our recovery court area here. It's still in a secured area. And so that's one benefit. So if you want to go on. This is the estimated cost of redoing that. This is Marshall's estimated cost would be $631,950, and that's with a 10% contingency. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm here asking for $650 because I know how contingency are, and that this was proposed to us and given back to us in November. Costs rise, and I'm just trying to get ahead of the game. I don't want there to be any secrets. I don't want me to have to come back and ask for more money. That's why I'm asking for $650,000.
Judge Blaine, who are you asking that from? From budget
But
or from
I'm
a
asking
donation for opioid?
Opioid Abatement Committee has got $500,000 hopefully set aside for this project. I know that at their last meeting, they denied some people some large amounts of money because they didn't meet specifications, and there may be additional funds there. If not, I've got in my budgets for this coming year through Recovery Court, $650,000 in capital expenditures in case we don't get this money. That's what I'm going to be asking the Budget Committee for when I do my budget for next year, to protect myself one way or the other.
So if they're coming up with the 500,000, who's coming up with the other 150?
I'm going to be asking for, I just said that I put that in my budget for this next year to go to the Budget Committee and ask for them to pay on that, to add that to my budget.
So you have two pots regarding opioids. You have the 500,000, which Judge Blanton's here requesting, and then you have, I believe it's the 132,000 that's already been appropriated to Recovery Court not-for-profit. So if this body, being Gen Ops, decides to entertain a lease with this body, then you would have a potential of 632,000.
Okay.
Which would mean there would be an $18,000 shortfall.
Yeah, and I would then ask just for that in my Recovery Court budget, just in case. I don't like playing games. If we don't spend $650, I'm gonna give it back to you. I don't wanna have to nickel and dime you to death. I'm gonna ask for it on the front end and then give you back what we don't spend. I mean, that's how I run my house. I project more than I'm gonna use, and if I don't use all that, great, I got extra money. I don't have to go from other places to find it. Build out timeline, should this request go through Gen Ops and on the budget and then to the full commission. You know, I'm being optimistic here that the proposal would be approved in July. We have to get an architect to finish the drawings and this be completed by next May. That is, I think that's the last slide that you can go on. There may be a couple more. Now, these are the pictures. You were asking about the pictures. All right, this is the old clerk's office. All right, this is a picture taken from where that jetted out across. So we would have from here all the way back in the clerk's office. With Aria having an office there, then there's a little break area, a bathroom there. We would build another office, and then the rest of this space would be used for meetings, a meeting space, a large meeting space. Because we wouldn't need the counter, that would go, so that whole area would open up. Mental health court has the two rooms across the hall. One was a break room for the clerk's office. The other was the grand jury room where they met. This is what they have in their proposal. This is just pictures down the hall. You would have, this would be the room where the clerks had their break area, and then the next room would be the conference room, and then there's a little sign that says the district attorney's office. That little office would be used as a waiting area for people who would be coming in to go to recovery court. You can see how that wall jets out there in that picture. You see that? It's probably more evident in the pictures you've got in the file, but that's where the wall would go across, and everything on the other side would be the sheriff's department.
Okay. Judge Blaine.
Yes, sir.
So, to be clear, the 650 that you're asking for, 132, 150 of that is for the nonprofit.
No, it's for recovery court and nonprofit.
But the
Together.
500, okay, so all
500
of it's for
for
the
us.
renovation of this
All of it's
existing
for
building,
renovation of
but
this
none of
building.
it's talking about what you would do at the property at the other place. That's
No.
future stuff.
No,
Okay.
no, none of that, because I don't have that property right now. I'm not gonna ask you about it till I got it.
I understand. I don't know if you're presenting any of that also.
No, what they intended, I can tell you what they intend to do, was once that
I don't wanna
property is
muddy
to
things
them.
up or anything.
No, once that property becomes in their possession, then they would
Build
apply
that.
to a state grant or
To get a house
some type of
for
grant
the
to build a house
homeless
specifically
people
on that
for the-
property.
Yeah, I got you.
classrooms, that's a classroom behind Judge Bryant McCormick's old courtroom that would be used, that has 2 bathrooms in it. This was just all pictures of that room. They have 2 identical bathrooms. Has a break room already built in, wouldn't have to ask for any, it's already built in there. This is a hallway that was used for storage. It's longer than this. The picture doesn't do this one very good. It's longer than this, and that would be space for Vivitrol because it locks on both sides of the door. It would be a space for our Vivitrol and any other sensitive things that we need to keep. It would also be a storage room for files. The judge's old office that would be converted into probably Tracy's office. And it has bathrooms, but those bathrooms could be used for drug testing as well. We have 2 bathrooms that we can drug test in right now. And by moving into this facility, we're not standing there right on top of somebody while they're using a bathroom. We have space in these bathrooms to be able to do that with some dignity. So this gives us that room to grow we talked about. This would be, if you came into her courtroom, imagine a hallway down through here with offices. This may be left open for a meeting space there. The only concern I have, it's the same concern that Judge Brian McCormick had, is if you look in this picture in the upper, you see there's a doorway that's open. Well, right in front of that on the left is a doorway that goes outside. And so what I have proposed is if you go through that door and go down the hallway just a little bit, putting a secured door in there. So no inmates could just run out the door. That would be a locked, secured door to go to keep that. Court holding, this is the hallway that in the back that I was talking about. The inmates would come through that door. It's secured, as you see, and they could go right on the other side of that garbage can. It goes right into where recovery court is. And then on the other side of the door is the jail, actually jail cells. Why fund this project? It improves the access to justice and treatment, and enhance public safety, better resource management, and increases our capacity to serve the public. And we're maximizing our grant potential by knocking this out and being very fiscally responsible. We're not asking for a lot of money. We just want it to be functional. If you see, I encourage you that if you've never been over to recovery court, go see what they work in and what work they do in that space. You'd be amazed.
And I've been to recovery court. I would encourage all of you to go. It's amazing.
We have staffing on Monday nights at 5 o'clock, and you're more than welcome to come. I would get there about 4. If you really want to see how recovery court works, get there at 4. Mm-hmm. We have our staffing at 4 o'clock. It's in my courtroom, second floor, courtroom 2A. You'll have to sign a little non-confidential confidentiality paper, and you sit in through our staffing where we go through each participant, and you can sit through the actual where we meet with each individual and talk to them. Yes, ma'am.
So in your 5 houses that you have, how many participants are in each house? About?
Approximately 6 to 8.
In each house?
In each house.
It's 7 to 8.
7 to 8.
And do they have a house parent?
Yes.
Yes, they do. They have, it's usually somebody that's getting ready to graduate that's not had any infractions. And sometimes it's alumni who have no place to live, but they have a job and they pay rent and they're vested in this program and they're going to hold people accountable.
And does the foundation own the 5 houses?
No, they own one and they lease 5.
Lease 5, sorry, okay.
Yeah.
A lot of information.
I have a question about that.
Yes,
too.
sir.
Are they on a timeline once they get there that they have to be out by a certain date? Is there a graduation date?
There is a graduation
kind of their limit or?
It's their graduation date, but for those who have participated and graduate through the program, if they don't have, most of them during that 2.5 years it takes to go through the program, we really work on mending relationship with their families. People that they thought they'd never have a relationship, people that have mended relationships with their dads, guys that hadn't talked to their dad in 20 years. And so the goal is when they graduate, then they can go back to live with family or the family can assist them, but that's not everybody.
But they know it's not permanent.
They know it's not
That
permanent,
you're
right?
gonna
Because even those
eventually
that
get them.
graduate, are the house monitors, we're working, most of them are still on probation, okay, through Judge Gay's court. Most of them are still on probation, so they have to report. We work with them on their money. We work on everything to help them get to a point where they can go out on their own. They don't want to stay in our houses, trust me. They much rather live on their own, but it is something that they can, live until transition to. Yes, ma'am.
One last question. If you're going to give the intensive outpatient program to offer it to people in the community, not in the program, and you've hired this
They've already been hired.
professional who can then bill insurance, is the plan for recovery, the foundation, to earn some income on that?
Yes. It's not very large, but it is enough to
To
cover.
fund the program, yes, right,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
To sustain that program moving forward,
Yes,
yes.
thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask you first? Oh, you
Mr.
really?
Klein.
Go ahead.
You had a question before I got started.
I just wanted to say that Sheriff Craddock called me before the meeting, and he wanted it on record that he's 100% in favor of this space.
Right.
And he's 100% in favor of the children or people building.
He called me as well.
Last week before last, I met with Sheriff Craddock, and he and I walked through that specific space together so that we knew that we were on the same page and that he was okay with the space and what we would intend to use for it. So I did meet with him. He said, I asked him for a letter. He said, I'm on the committee. I'll tell him myself. So.
He wrote a letter, but he didn't get to me in time.
Okay.
So I just wanted, just a little bit of clarification.
Okay.
And I know we talked about the other project and the house there, and so.
If you're gonna ask me about that clause.
No, I'm not, sir. What I was wondering is, that would be for the foundation.
Foundation only.
And then with that, that's an exciting program, I'm very excited. Would that be able to house, if we had someone from Trousdale County, a
No.
family? And the reason I'm asking is because when I talked to the state chair of the opioids a year and a half ago, he said we could get state money more if we were offering another county. So that's why I'm bringing
My
it, I'm
issue
asking
with that
you.
is we'll fill that house with Sumner County people right now. We
But
can
if
fill
we
it
could
with
get,
Sumner
if we could
County
get it
people right
paid
now.
for by the state.
But we'd have to have Trousdale people in it too.
But they
No,
would
we
not
have to
pay you.
give them permission
They would not
because
pay
if there's
us,
an
they would
opening.
pay the foundation.
Yes.
And the foundation could.
Well, maybe through opiate, we could get more grant money.
That's like people from.
It's something we can talk about
Something we can talk
In the
about.
future, yes,
at the
ma'am.
next round? Okay.
We already have enough
I'm, the lawyer in me is coming out now, okay? If you deed it to the people or children or people building to
The coalition.
coalition, there's an agreement between them. It doesn't concern you all what we do with that property over there.
No, and I'm not concerned about it. I just want to give you more money
Oh,
in the
okay.
next round.
I got you.
Are we talking better now?
We're talking a lot better now. But anybody in there wants to go in.
There we go. The state
The
chairman.
goal- You gotta understand what my
This-
goal is for the citizens of Sumner County first.
Yes.
Now, if we have a bed space available and nobody on board, we can house somebody from another county, absolutely. I don't want that
The
bed
state
to go
chairman
waste.
told me that applications with joint counties would go to the top of the state list. That's what I was asking.
Here's, and I'm not on the record. We're out,
Camera.
I know we're on the record, but we're not in session, you're on not in session. The
Cameras are on, Judge.
That's all right. I say this to them. The problem you got is they don't have the same program that we have.
That's right.
All right? And I don't want to bring somebody into our program.
Maybe it's a Trousdale County person that got in trouble in Sumner County and you take.
That's a different story. I thought you were talking about somebody that went into recovery Trousdale County wanting to come over
We can
here.
work on it.
So
Mr. Chairman's
we
gonna
need
be.
to wrap up, so you're going way out in the weeds here. So I'm gonna bring us back in, and thank you, Judge, you did a wonderful
Thank you for the
presentation. So we're gonna wrap up our meeting and talk about, so we have the funding sources allocated, right? And so, the additional funding would be $150,000.
Yeah, it's just $18,000 more, and I'll request that through my budget. Yeah.
So we're looking at that, and then, since we know that, and then we just need to discuss the next meeting. Right? So what is, for opioid abatement, what is y'all's, you that are here, what is your, we're looking at, we need to have a meeting, what is your next timeline? Or what are your availability, excuse me? I am not available at the end of March, I'm not available.
Second of April?
Third, April 3rd, are you all available April 3rd?
Okay.
Gary?
April 3rd.
April
3rd?
3rd.
Is that a
Shannon?
Thursday? Is that a Thursday?
Yes,
It
ma'am.
is.
Yes, I am.
Okay,
5:30.
5 or 5:30, you wanna do 5 or 5:30?
5:30.
5:30. Does that work for y'all, 5:30? Okay, so we'll do April 3rd at 5:30. And then general ops will meet on the 7th.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Perhaps David, well, you may know too. Is this gonna already be on the agenda for Gen Ops, April 7th meeting to discuss
I won't
some
know
of
that
this?
until April 3rd.
So you'll come up with something out of this on April 3rd that'll
Uh-huh.
come to us 4
Yes.
days later? Okay,
Yeah.
That's correct.
okay.
So,
So just hold on to this stuff and
yeah, hold on.
take your direction after April 3rd. Gotcha.
Okay, anybody have any other questions? I'm getting ready
Just,
to.
it's gonna be the Thursday before the Monday of Gen Ops, might be have some problems getting it on the actual agenda because it's published Thursday
Okay.
afternoon at the latest. So there could be some issues with maybe having to be added from the floor, whatever you want to do from the floor.
If Commissioner Mansfield, since he does approve the agenda, would allow it, then maybe have on the agenda an update on the opioid abatement, current status with potential discussion and votes.
Or could you
It's already
do?
in our
Yeah.
business, so,
It should be fine.
Okay, so it's already on there, so we're good.
yeah.
Okay, we're good.
There you go.
All right, well, we have one more.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for
Can I ask you a
coming.
question?
Sir.
General